Good afternoon. A couple things I need to get out of the way right away. One, it's a little surprised to come into a Calvinist gathering and see lasagna being served. But I see banquette in the center of the table, so you guys redeemed yourselves. Secondly, I too am round around the middle, but I'm not having twins. Let's get that off the table right away. My name again is Joel Reiter. You can always tell when I'm in a Dutch crowd because they pronounce my last name right. Usually it's Reuter. So thank you for that. I feel at home already. I am the Executive Director, CEO of Home Repair Services of Kent County. And we'll kind of give you an introduction of who we are and what we do, and then we're going to get into this really important topic about aging in place. Should I stay or should I go? And then we'll also finish it off with a little quick hitter on scams, home improvement scams specifically. So, make sure this is our building at 1100 South Division. So we're around Hall Street, just about a block north of Hall and Division. And anybody, I'll give extra credit, anybody knows what was in this building originally? We're so close. Yes, and then we almost had the name right. Mulva Hill Oldsmobile. Now, I always have to look at an audience to just gauge whether they even know what Oldsmobile is anymore. So you guys got it. Anybody ever buy a car from Mulva Hill Oldsmobile? All right, there we go. Awesome. I have not found any of your old paperwork yet in my office. Our original home was only 2 blocks from there. It's corner of Hall and Jefferson. That building is still there. It looks a lot different than in this picture here. Of course, that's in the shadows of Grand Rapids South High School. Anybody know what was in that building originally? Anybody remember that outfit? Yeah. So that was one of many that they had around town. Some good history. Our mission statement is to strengthen vulnerable Kent County homeowners because strong homeowners build strong communities. And that mission statement is short and sweet, and it's really complete. And the real keywords there are vulnerable, that's who we serve. You have to be a resident of Kent County for our repair services anyway. And our missional lane is homeowners. We believe that having good, strong rental options in an area is important, but that's not our missional lane. We really focus on owning a home and safely and successfully and sustainably owning a home. And then why? Because if neighborhoods are populated by homeowners, they're stronger. And the more neighborhoods that are stronger, like a patchwork quilt, it makes for a stronger community. We look at our work like it's a bucket. We're not the person that pours into the bucket and creates the homeowner, but we know as Calvinists in a broken world, there's holes in the bottom of the bucket. So we want to make sure that we're retaining homeowners that got poured into that bucket. And we've identified holes in terms of critical repairs, in terms of foreclosure, anything that will make somebody in danger of not being successful as a homeowner. We're the organization that tries to plug those holes and keep people in the bucket. Why is it important to own a home? It's the biggest wealth generator in the United States, and still is today. Most white Americans have built generational wealth, which they then pass on to their next generation. So having non-traditional homeowners have the opportunity to experience this successfully is a big piece of it. The Federal Reserve knows this because every 4 years they study it. You're 46 times greater net worth if you own a home than if you're a renter. So we see it as an amazing opportunity to change the arc of someone's life if we can have them get into home ownership and successfully make it to the finish line. If you think about a race, we invite people to the starting line, we fire the gun, and we say, go. But what's along the way in a race before you get to the finish line? Aid stations, right? So we're an aid station at different points for people to access what will help them get to the finish line. We express our work in 3 pillars. It's our repair team, where we're making critical health and safety repairs for a homeowner who can't fully afford to pay for them themselves. We have a suite of programs called Self-Help, where we try to equip and empower people to do it themselves through education. And then finally, we do financial coaching and counseling and housing counseling. And that gets into the space of foreclosure. So, one of the things I wanted to highlight to you guys is we do in this education space something called Handy Helen classes. This is sponsored by the Kent County Senior Village. and it's for ladies only, over the age of 60, and we invite you into our building on successive Tuesdays or Thursdays, whatever the case is, whatever day we pick. You'll come on in the morning at about 10 o'clock, we'll do a couple of hours worth of workshops, we'll take you a great lunch, we'll do 2 more hours of workshops, and send you home. And then we repeat the same thing the following week. And we're focusing on things that you as a homeowner can do yourself. One of the very first things we do is we talk about how many can tell us where the main line water shutoff is in their home. That's good. That's good. Most can't. So when the water's spraying, and if you don't have an individual shutoff at that fixture that's spraying, you want to know where that valve is, right? So we cover things like that. We actually have folks come back into our shop and they work on power tools, and so we demystify this idea of what's it like to be in charge of the maintenance of your home. Why is it important? Women outlive men. So there's going to come a point in time, right, where perhaps your spouse is the one that has outlived you, and having a female have some understanding of how to do maintenance is really, really critical. All right, let's get into this topic of should I stay or should I go? Before I became the CEO of Home Repair Services 6 years ago, I spent 5 years in the marketing field of a senior living community. So I'll never forget the first week I came onto that new job, they said to me, hey, congratulations, we think you're going to be really good at this. You're going to be talking to seniors about leaving their homes and moving to a retirement community. Oh, and by the way, 97 out of 100 people you'll talk to won't have nothing to do with the idea. The things they don't tell you in the interview process, right? Most people want to stay in their home. They're not really open to this idea we're going to move to a community. So we were fighting over the 3% market share. I was working for Covenant Village of the Great Lakes on the west side of Grand Rapids. Beautiful community, faith-based community, and in Grand Rapids we have wonderful choices. It's really a unique community in the sense that there's faith-based continuum of care retirement communities that have been around for many, many, many years. So, do I stay in my home, do I age in place, or do I consider this option of moving to a community? And what are the pros and the cons? So, when I came to Home Repair Services, of course, we do the exact opposite. We're here to help people stay in their homes. So I've seen both sides of the coin, and I think I'm pretty equipped to give you both sides of that coin. And if you're going to be that person in the 97% that says, I'm going to stay in place, here's some things that we can think about that will help you do that successfully. We want you to flourish if you are in the 97% category. First of all, let me explain what a continuum of care retirement community is. So that's a community where you can move in as an independent, vibrant senior, and on that campus, on that property, you have the ability to transition into assisted living as you age, or if you ever need skilled nursing during your time on that campus, there's a skilled nursing facility on the property. So you can make these transitions should you need to. And of course, everybody I was talking to at the independent living stage, we would say, you know what? You're going to hope that you never go where? To assisted living or skilled nursing facility, and that's fine. We want to continue to have that hope. But what you're kind of doing is saying, I'm going to pick where I'm going to have these services take place should I need them. I believe the percentage of folks who need some level of care, assisted living or higher, is 70%. So, that was the first thing I would say. Do you know you're going to be in the 30%? Odds are you're going to be in need of some level of care. That doesn't mean staying in your home is not an option, because you're going to need future care. You just need to have a plan for it. Two things you're buying. You're buying a lifestyle in these communities for your current situation, where everything has been designed, both in terms of the space and the place, but also the amenities are carefully designed for someone over the age of 60 to flourish. The other thing you're buying is future health care. So again, if you need assisted living, you get priority over somebody who's calling from outside the community at that point saying, Mom and Dad really need an assisted living space. I've heard great things about your community. Can you get them in? And they might say, well, we have to check with our existing residents to see if somebody else needs one of our assisted living rooms. Usually, for a good community, there's a wait list for that. So you are buying the pathway to access that assisted living when you need it. again, everything has been very carefully thought about in terms of what does someone over the age of 60 need, want, desire. So safety and security is a high priority. So, you know, they think about the buildings, they think about the grounds, whether it's how they design the apartments, how they design the amenities, the grounds themselves, security on site. Want to make sure it's a safe and secure place for you to live. That's what they're selling you. They're selling you socialization. And I'm sure over the last couple of years you've experienced what isolation looks like at different times. That's one of the biggest issues, especially if we're talking to folks who outlive a spouse, is how do you get socialization on a regular basis? You have to make it an effort sometimes to have that happen. It's the biggest social determinant of poor health is to become isolated as a senior. Dining is often usually included, so there'll be some on-site opportunity for you to access meals, whether it's in a cafe or a restaurant or meals delivered to individual residences, but they're thinking about that thing of how do we make sure our folks eat well and have nutritious options, and much of that gets built around, again, socialization. Food draws people together. So you get socialization while you're accessing nutrition. Lots and lots of activities. So most of these communities have an exercise person, they have an activities director, they're thinking about things they bring onto the campus within the community, and they're also thinking about things, where can they bring you into the community, where it's kind of like going on a cruise ship, right? You do excursions, and it's all planned for you, and they bring you door-to-door service, and whether it's Art Prize or Meyer Gardens, they're going to bring you places. So there's always something. If you look at a calendar of events, it's full. In fact, a lot of times I would hear from folks that we would bring into the community, it's like, I never thought I'd be this busy. I'm a little tired. All we're doing is going places, and they have to actually recalibrate their lifestyle a little bit because it was kind of sedentary before, and now they're just, I want to take advantage of this, I want to take advantage of that. So it's a lifestyle full of activities, at least pick and choose what you want to be involved in. It's simply easier living. Everything has been thought about to make life easier in terms of the space you live in. It's all on one floor. Amenities on site. So at Covenant Village of the Great Lakes, we had a bank branch in the building, we had a hair salon in the building, we had a swimming pool, an exercise facility in the building, we had a cafe, we had a full service restaurant. Everything was right there for you to access without ever leaving the building if you didn't want to. Exercise is an important part. As I mentioned, we had an exercise staff member who was in charge of that, and there was carefully selected exercises that made sense based on age, right? We don't want to get anybody injured, but there was from balance and classes to Tai Chi to many different things that were age appropriate to keep people moving. Transportation is usually figured in. So most communities have a courtesy car that will make individual appointments for you and with you, and buses that will get you in and around town. So if you get to that stage where you don't want to drive anymore or shouldn't be driving, you have that opportunity to still get in the community and not worry about that. And as I mentioned, lots of on-site amenities that were right in the building for people to access. So, the big thing about that future health care is that what if question. Again, 70% of folks are going to need some level of care. You need to think about what will happen if I have a stroke or my spouse has a stroke. What are we thinking about? What's our plan? If you decide to stay in your home, you still need a plan. You should know about these communities and what your options would be and where you'd want to go. You know, you've seen the advanced directives for medical care. This is like an advanced directive decision that you're making and saying, if I ever need some type of assisted living care or I need a skilled nursing stay, I've done some research. I've asked around, where would we want to go? And you need to let not only your spouse know or your kids know, somebody in your life knows what is your wish for some of these things. Because believe it or not, there are times where you can't speak for yourself, right? So at Covenant Village, we had on the back of every independent living apartment, there was a little sleeve in the door, and it had contained all of that advanced directive information. So if there was a medical emergency, the last thing they grab, take somebody out of the department was that information. And that was so smart and so critical, because it would say things like, what am I allergic to? Do I like to sleep in these kind of pajamas? What types of foods do I like? What type of music do I like? Things that would speak for you in terms of the kind of quality of care that you're going to receive when you end up in a skilled nursing bed. Because at that point, you're not speaking for yourself, at least for a while. And do your children know these things about you? Probably not. So that was a little thing that I found to be quite brilliant. If you're not making those choices, it's your kids. Let me tell you, as a 56-year-old adult child who had not been in the senior living space, I would not know any of this kind of stuff until I get thrown into it in a crisis, right? And when I hear, hey, I need to find a bed for mom, and I call the first place in the list, and they said, we have one, what do you think I would do? Yes, thank you, we'll take it. And I would know nothing about this. But you all are in an age bracket right now where you know folks who have journeyed some of this. You want to find out how their experience was, even if it was for a short-term stint in skilled nursing. Oop, let's go back. So, that's the big question, whether it's Holland Home, Covenant Village, Porter Hills, what's the...
Sunset.
Sunset, right. So there's another one out here, right? So what's it take to move into one of these places? How do they fund it, right? So most are entrance fee models. There are a few rental community models here where you simply just pay month. Most rental options, though, are not a full continuum of care. So we're not solving that future care thing. We're saying, I want to move in as an independent living person into an apartment that was designed to make life easier for me, but if I still have a stroke unexpectedly, I still have to sort out where I go from there. The entrance fee people, the Sunsets and Waterfords and so forth, will likely require an entrance fee. You usually pay that by selling your home. And then you pay a monthly fee to cover your utilities and other costs on a month-to-month basis. And usually those fees graduate as you need more care. So the cheapest place for you to live is independent living, because you're requiring the least amount of care. You're caring for yourself. But as you move up into assisted living, and even within the assisted living, they're going to grade different levels of care that you need, and they'll adjust the monthly fee based on that. Often, the most expensive place to be is where? Nursing. Skilled nursing facility. You only want to be there as long as you possibly need to, right? And get better and get home. In fact, Medicare, when you stop progressing, you're done. That's how they make that decision. So you want to get well and get home. That's everyone's goal. Do they take all your money? That was a question I get a lot. So, okay, I pay the entrance fee. Do they have claim on the rest of my assets? No, they do not. Most communities do not operate that way. They'll probably ask you to disclose what you have on the way in, because they want to gauge how many people on this campus at one time may run out of money at the same time. It's really good stewardship in terms of managing the campus. You can't have everybody needing benevolent support all at the same time. But your money is still your money, okay? And then what if I run out of money? That was a common one that we heard. Again, this is a unique community that we have so many continuum of care options that are faith-based, and they typically have a benevolent fund model. So should you do everything right, you saved a nest egg, you just are living a long, long time, and your care levels are going up, you'll have the opportunity to stay on campus, and the community at large, through philanthropy, is covering the cost for you to be in place. One key thing you want to check, though, if a community takes Medicaid. So this is the one case where you probably say you want to make sure that Medicaid is an option. Most of the time you're going to say, I'm not going to pick something because they take Medicaid, because it's usually substandard in your mind. But Medicaid helps cover the difference in terms of the government supporting somebody who has run out of money, so that the benevolent gap can be much more manageable. Most communities that do Medicaid are very, very good about benevolent care and making sure you stay as long as you need to. So my mother-in-law, she lives in Holland Home, 83 years old. We had a little snafu with her pension. My father-in-law passed away 3 years ago. Somehow they didn't get a death certificate. And she's freaking out right now that her pension might be in jeopardy. So she says to me the other day, well, if we can't get this sorted out, and I run out of money, at least I know the Holland Home won't throw me out. So that's a thing. It's a thing. And it's a significant thing. The Holland Home, I believe, probably does about $2 million a year of benevolent support, supporting residents who have outlived their resources. So now we get into the option of staying in your home. And I would always say, wow, it's cheaper to stay in my home than to sell it, give them the proceeds of my house, and then my costs will go up. It's just going to be cheaper for me to stay in place. True. But is it without any expense? No. You have to do some things around your house to equip it to be a safe place for you to stay. Most houses were not designed for someone over the age of 75 to live in. Rare is the exception. We were just talking about it at lunch. It's something that was designed with all ages to be safe and secure living in a space. So we look at the list. Walk-in showers is a big one. Leading cause of death for someone over the age of 60 is what? Complications from a fall, right? One of the key places that can happen is in the bathroom. If you're looking at one of those old bathrooms or those old tubs and you got one leg down, you're swinging that other leg over and you are reaching. There's something to grab onto, right? Maybe your feet are wet. They're coming out of the tub, right? It's a very tricky thing to navigate. So what a lot of seniors quit doing is what? Using the bathtub. Hygiene becomes secondary because it's choice. I'm going to do hygiene or I'm going to risk my risk of fall. So walk-in showers, you got to have them. That low threshold, 4-inch threshold, minimal. Roll-ins are, I mean, that's Rolls Royce. But that 4-inch lip is something you can typically navigate. Safety bars, both in the tub and around the tub. As you start to age and you start to go, every time I get off the toilet, I'm reaching or I'm using this and there's nothing there, or I'm getting in and out of the tub or the shower, you sense where you're reaching for something. Make sure you got a grab bar in those spots. And that's not just for the bathroom. We worked with a client who has MS, and we were adding grab bars in various places in her home. Again, because it was never designed for someone her age, certainly not with MS, to navigate that space. Grab bars are a great, fairly inexpensive solution if they're installed well. Stairs. So, we think about houses, and especially ones built prior to 1950. Your laundry is where? And it's probably a 2-story house. Where do you sleep? And in our community, we have beautiful terrain. It's hilly, and so sometimes you're navigating steps just to get up and down. We'll show you some pictures of that in a minute. So stairs, again, leading cause of death, complications from the fall, stairs. So thinking about, gosh, do I have proper rails? Not on just one side, both sides of your basement step. How do you know which way you're going to lean? So making sure you have rails in the basement, in leading to the basement, the upstairs, your steps up and down, getting in and out of your home. In the garage is the famous one. Well, it's only 2 steps. You need a rail. You want to over-worry about that kind of thing. We think about the layout itself. Again, sometimes you look at homes that were built prior to 1950. Sometimes in the 20s, it's a classic example. If you look at how wide people are today, people like me, compared to how they were in the 1920s, having a 28-inch doorway or a 24-inch doorway was pretty common. But if you think about trying to navigate that with a walker, that's a knuckle wrapper right there to try and get through that door. So having wider doorways and thinking about how you navigate through your home is really, really critical. We just did we're working with a client who did a kitchen remodel that we helped support, and they had an old home built in 1920, and the refrigerator was in a little passageway that went between the kitchen and the living room. And when that home was built, there was no such things as the refrigerators that we have today. That thing stuck out so far, he had about 16 inches to move through there. And he's now 62 and he can do it, but in 5 years, 10 years, that didn't make sense. So actually the new kitchen design got that refrigerator in the kitchen, which was a good thing. Security, that can mean things like door locks and peepholes. Somebody comes to your door late at night and you really can't see quite who's out there. How about porch lights? Do you have adequate lighting? So if, again, somebody comes to your door and you're able to look through a peephole and then have enough light to see who's there and whether you're going to answer that door or not. And deadbolt locks and having the locks installed properly. A lot of times they're improperly installed and they're not as safe as you think. Security also comes in the form of the ability to, if you live alone, I just got my mother-in-law, again, I'll use her as an example, lives alone now, and so we got her an Apple Watch. Because does she need to check her email on her wrist? No. But there's a safety device on that can act like the alert buttons, right? No one likes to wear the alert button. We used to give them at Covenant Village, when you moved in as an independent living person, you were given one of those buttons. You could wear it on the wrist or you could wear it around your neck. There was so much resistance to that. Why? Because it's, it's like a tattoo of aging, I guess, right? No one wants to do it. I tell you what, that thing worked on GPS. And we had an indoor parking garage there. We had one of our residents fall in between two parked cars. She was faithful about wearing that. She hit the button and we were able to find her. How long would she have laid there were it not for that button? No one's doing a sweep around the indoor parking garage looking for the missing resident until we discover the missing resident is missing. So the ability for somebody to know you're in distress, really, really important. I think about that with my father. Now my father, this is very tight in my world, he lives on the same street as my mother-in-law at Holland Home in an independent living condo. So I can visit both of them in a block's difference. He's 88. He should have some kind of device, and we haven't had that talk yet. And the way they built the condos there's a lower level, and he has his office down there, he has a TV room down there, and I keep thinking, uh-oh, here I talk about the groups like this all the time, and he should have a way, because if he can't crawl to a phone, or he doesn't carry his cell phone, and that's usually what I would get from people is, oh, I got my cell phone with me all the time. Do you? No, you don't. It's great if you do. That is a safety device in your hand, but everybody sets the thing down and recharges it or does something, right? So think about that. How would we have an emergency response within your home that you currently live in, should you need it? That's where I also talk about neighbors who care. We just had a conversation right here at lunch. A neighbor down the street, 3-4 houses down the street, died in his car, went undiscovered for 3 days. I just had at my book club a gentleman whose wife is a nurse, and during COVID, she has seen some horrific things and heard some horrific things. One of them that caught mine was a couple where the husband is the primary caregiver in a home with a wife with Alzheimer's. He had a health episode and died. 6 days, I think, went by before this was uncovered. You know, they found the wife, draped over the husband, still alive, by the grace of God, but extremely dehydrated and covered in feces. You need a neighbor who knows enough about you to catch something's not right. The car's not parked in the right spot, or I haven't seen any activity. So nobody wants the busybody neighbor. Trust me, I don't want them either. But you gotta have enough of a relationship to where they have a sense, you got a little pact, especially if you're a single person living alone. Have a good neighbor that you trust and you can have a little pact with. And you check on me, I check on you. I would often get the comment about the call system. Oh, don't worry, my daughter calls me first thing in the morning and we talk right at the end of the day. Well, that's great. What happens in the 12-hour in between, right? So is there a neighbor that can kind of just pay attention? we're noticing the newspapers piling up, or the snow's not getting moved around, whatever. Somebody is going to check on you. And then access in and out of the home is a big one. So one of the things that we do at Home Repair Services with our repair program is build access ramps. This is an example, and this program is income restricted, so we work with folks who just don't have the resources ever to consider having this built for them. And they will pay about 10 to 15% of the actual costs of something like that, and we take monthly payments to make sure it doesn't blow up anybody's budget. So they're gonna get help through us. But this is a ramp that we built this past summer in the city of Grand Rapids, a couple in their 80s. And that's the finished product. And what's very important about that is this is what this family was using. So I always say in a picture like this, desperation is the mother of invention. You as a senior are desperate to get in and out of your home. Going up and down those stairs is certainly not an answer. So a neighbor, a family member, somebody says, we can build you something. But they don't know what they're doing. So look how steep that is. There's no support under that ramp. At the bottom and at the top is the only support it has. It is made out of chipboard, which degrades every time it gets wet. And it was built so narrowly that they added on a little extension, so when you open the door, you had a place to stand. You had sort of a handrail on one side, nothing on the other side. So again, you never know which side you're going to fall on. If you fall on the wrong side of this, it's a very dangerous equation. This is another one. When I came in this job, the very first week they took me on a tour of some work sites, and this is one they brought me to. And similar situation, right? 80-year-old, 82-year-old gentleman living in the home. I love to show this picture though, but look at the street level to the yard. This is very common, especially in parts of Grand Rapids. It's 6 steps to get from the sidewalk to the yard level. So if you park your car at the street, you're going to go up the curb, that's 1. 6 steps to get to the yard level. Now you've gone 7 steps. To get from the yard to the porch level, it's 3 more. And then from the porch to the main floor of the home, there's another step. So that's 11 steps that person just took to get from the street to the main floor of the home. 2-story house, where's the laundry? Basement. Where does he sleep? 2nd floor. Everywhere he turns, he was dealing with steps. So having an idea of when you need to add a ramp is really, really important. Sometimes you can add them in the garage. That really works out well because you can keep it free of snow and it doesn't detract from the look of the home, but oftentimes you have to put them outside, right? We talked about this. 1/3 of Americans aged 65 plus fall each year, right? Every 19 minutes, an older adult dies from complications from a fall. And falls result in almost 3 million trips to the ER and 800,000 hospitalizations. So that's a big deal. What can you do around the house to keep you from falling? Well, throw rugs. I know you love them. I know you love them. But think about how many of them are slip hazards waiting for you to be tripped up by them. If you can reduce the number of throw rugs in your home, please do. You will be better for it. Bathtub transfers, we talked about getting your leg over that lip of that bathtub and finding something that's easier for you to access hygiene that way. Balance strengthening. Did you know Medicare will pay for balance classes for you to take even in your home, one-on-one? Why would they do that? Why would the government pay for one-on-one balance classes? Because the return on investment is so tremendous. Pennies on the dollar for them to come in and help you be strong and stay on your feet than it is for you to fall, fracture a hip, and go into skilled nursing. Medicare has done the numbers. And take advantage of these opportunities. Many places offer strength and balance classes, often for free, whether it's community centers, it's senior centers, churches. If you see an opportunity to take a class like that, do it. It will help you stay strong. Mobility devices. Oh, this is a hard one. So, walkers, and canes, and other things that will help you stay on your feet, right? People fight it, fight it, fight it, fight it. My own family fights it, okay? some point, you just should do it. Is there any pride in being in skilled nursing? There's not. You'll be glad you used a walker than to spend 21 days in skilled nursing recovering from a fractured hip. Do it. Use it. There's nothing there. You're not going to look any younger. Trust me. Trust me. Use those mobility devices. They help you stay independent longer. If that is your goal, why would you not? It's like using glasses. You know, why would you not wear glasses if they help you read longer, right? Use these things. They're smart. Mobility, banisters and handrails. Again, think about, look at your house. For all these years, having a single banister on one side was enough. Do you need to add a second one? Would that be smart? Chances are the answer is yes. Pretty inexpensive things to adapt to your home with, too. Lighting. Oh my goodness, I would go to seniors' homes and I would say, would you like to move into Covenant Retirement Community? And the lights would be off. TV would be up and on very loudly, and the lights would be off. I was like, why do we sit in the dark? Is it a Depression era thing? I couldn't figure it out. Sometimes I'd have to say, can we turn a light on? I'd like to see your shining face. So, why is it important? Because when things are dark, you don't see things on the floor. Your eyes, all of our eyes start to degrade over time. Keep the lights on. Make sure you got good lighting in there. Invest in good lighting. It helps you avoid trips. Cords, okay, like right now as I was setting up for this, I'm looking at all the cords here and I'm thinking, if I start to do like I sometimes do and walk around, I could trip and fall and it would be very embarrassing. So I got to be aware of my space, my environment. If you have lots of cords, again, anything that can cause you to trip, we want to avoid. Pets, oh, this is hard. So pets are really good for your health. If you're a pet owner, you know what I'm talking about. I didn't know this, I never had a pet my whole life, but then when my father-in-law died, he had a 90-pound golden doodle. And my mother-in-law, at her condition, could not care for this dog. So I got to have the 90-pound golden doodle. But I've watched my wife, she loves this dog. This dog has improved her life. I have to admit that, reluctantly. Hopefully she doesn't see this presentation. But it's hard. They really add value to your life. But a 90-pound dog, for someone in their 80s, probably not. And of course, the little dogs can be what? Hard to see. Yes. Can be trip hazards too. So this is a hard one. I just think about it. Think about your quality of life. Think about your space, and then make a good decision. She, I think, made a great decision. Said, I love the dog too, but I can't do this. And said, it's not going to be fair for the dog. The dog needs to be out and get out on regular walks, etc. This is an example of a bath modification. 42 times last year we went into a Kent County homeowner's home, and we took out this bathtub like that with a big step-over transfer, and we replaced it with a low threshold shower stall with a 4-inch lip. You can see in that particular one we added 3 grab bars. Right? We're anticipating as people are coming in, what are they reaching for? While they're in the shower accessing, would they be reaching for something? And then as they exit. So that's an example of the kind of work that we do in helping adapt a home. We partner with Disability Advocates of Kent County. It's another nonprofit. What they offer for us is the opportunity to come in there and do a full home assessment as well. So they're going to help spot the fact that it's a narrow doorway. We should widen that. They're going to spot other things that we wouldn't necessarily catch because we're really narrowly focused on what we do, which is the bathroom modification. So really a holistic way and approach. So one of the things you need to consider if you're going to stay in your home is farming out some things. If you haven't done it already, you need to be thinking this way, right? So lawn care and snow removal. A lot of people get a lot of satisfaction out of cutting their own grass, shoveling their own snow, and it gives them some exercise, it gives them purpose. I don't diminish that. I can tell you a story. When I was at Covenant Village, I can say this because I'm a stubborn Dutchman sometimes myself. Stubborn Dutchman. And he would come in and visit me. I've worked there for 5 years. Every year, clockwork. Call me up. Hey, I should consider this. Can we set up an appointment? He'd come on down. We'd do the tour. We'd do the whole thing. I think I was making progress. And then he would go home and, no, I'm coming. Well, find out later that he was in a skilled nursing facility from his daughter. And I'm like, whoa, what happened? Because the concern was his wife had dementia. He was the primary caregiver, and he had already done a number of things to make his home booby-proof in terms of keeping her a place she shouldn't be. But you know what he was doing? He fractured his ankle, cleaning the gutters. Not because he fell off a ladder. He had the slop bucket on the ground, and it was behind him. He didn't recognize that he fell into the bucket, and he fell over. Okay, there's a case where I know this gentleman was saying, I'm still active, I can still do this is important, it gives me some purpose. He should have been paying somebody to do that, okay? There's lots of things you can name around your house, and I know it's hard. You gotta pick and choose. At what point do I say, wave the white flag? It's not smart for me to do this anymore, just even if I can still, wave the white flag and put it in the hands of somebody else and make your home easier to take care of. Home maintenance, get rid of the ladders. If it requires a ladder, you're paying for it. Plain and simple. You know, very dangerous. Transportation, again, these are hard conversations to have as you think about driving, because, man, we live in a state that's built around driving. Auto capital of the world. We love the independence of having our own car. That creates agency, right? We go where we want to. At some point, you got to consider, should I still be driving? Have that kind of conversation. Groceries and meals, now this has gotten so much better. Because you can go online and put an order in for your groceries and they show up. That's awesome. Okay? Learn these things. Take advantage of them, right? So you don't have to haul groceries in and out of your house. Meals is a big one. Think about groups that you can be a part of where you can access meals like you just did today. This is awesome. It really is. You're eating well, and what else? Healthy food, what else? Well, maybe not the bunket. Socialization. You look forward to coming to this. You look forward to these monthly. There's places bigger than Ivarest. There's other places you can get a lunch or take part in something that brings you communally together with people to eat well. In-home care providers. Okay, so if you're going to stay in your home, you get to that point where you need a little extra care, you can pay to have that care brought into your home. So as you need that assisted living stage help, maybe it's getting dressed in the morning, it's duties going back to bed, it's cleaning the home, you can pay for whatever you need done. You pay by the hour, you can pay by the block of time. There are agencies around that do this. That's what you need to think about. We did this for folks who moved into independent living in the retirement community. Again, they were saying it's cheaper for me to pay for services I need at this point as an independent person than to transfer into assisted living where it's all baked in. The life alert systems we talked about, whether it's the button you push or an Apple Watch, some way that you can get a hold of somebody, especially if you live alone, to say, I've fallen, I need some help. Another thing you have to invest in, obviously, is property taxes, right? Those bills keep coming in, so there's a cost of staying in place. But if you look at that list, if you're in a condo, some of those things are already taken care of. If you're living in a standalone home, pay for those services. It will be less expensive for you to stay in place. One of the things I always like to talk about, though, is if you're going to stay in place, think about the lifestyle that you're going to get if you move into a community. How do you replicate that in a standalone version? So emotional support, again, what you're doing today gives you emotional support. Having a small group that you're a part of, people who know you well enough to where you can say, this is hard. I've got some support around me, really important. Socialization, relationships matter. Again, going through the pandemic that we just did the past 2 years, we've learned we need people. need to be around people. We need to be in person with people. It's important. Physical, diet and exercise. It's really hard when you're preparing food for yourself to eat healthy. It takes some work. So think about, again, ways that you can access healthy food options, and then think about places where you can get exercise classes in your life that keep you moving. My brother-in-law is a physician. He says if you lie in bed, you die in bed. It's that sedentary thing. We got to stay moving. Intellectual. Okay, be a lifelong learner. I'm guessing a group like this supports that, right? You're learning about new things monthly. Other places, stay active. If you know anything about the brain and you want to stave off dementia, you learn new things. Go to places you've never been before. You read a map. Can you imagine that? Yeah, you're probably in a generation that reads maps. I tell my kids, I said, what's the address? And they stick it into their phone and it tells them where to go and when to turn. That's not engaging your brain. Your brain's not firing. But when you read a map in a new place, boy, your brain is firing. That's good. Vocational, be purposeful. We just heard a presentation about vocation or Vacation Bible School, VBS, right? And I heard you say purposeful, purposeful, purposeful. But I would move people into Covenant Village that were 90 years old, and they had the spirit of a 70-year-old. And I would work with 70-year-olds with the spirit of a 95-year-old. You know what the difference was? No purpose. Everything was about, you lived often longer than you worked, and you had everything you thought retirement was going to be. Unlimited travel, unlimited golf, unlimited fishing, whatever it was, and there just wasn't any purpose. You could see it. And people with very little money, but boy, they were active and being purposeful, and they were happy people. It makes a difference. Spiritual, faith habits. And I'm literally preaching to the choir right now, right? But being connected in some group that keeps you spiritually focused is really, really important. So, should I stay or should I go? Here's some things in my advice. Don't stop planning. This is the weirdest thing. I've been getting groups like you all, and you have been excellent planners your whole life. You bought insurance, you saved money, you have nest eggs, you made all the right decisions, you did all the right research, and you would get to this stage and you'd stop planning. Go back to that percentage. 70% of you will need some level of care before you die. Should you or should you not do some planning around that concept? Even if you're going to stay in your home, that's your goal, fine, but do some planning. Do not stop planning. It's like you're thinking, maybe if we don't talk about it, we fall into the 30%. It's not how it works. It's keeping the people you've been. Good planners. Be open-minded and honest. Some of these conversations are not fun to have necessarily, but talk about them. Talk about them with your friends. Talk about them with your kids. If you choose to stay, do you have a plan for that higher level of care? And that's, again, ask around, do some research. You might even visit a few facilities just to see what they look like, how people are friendly or not, what do they smell like. Because you want to be able to say, kind of in that advanced directed mode, hey, son or daughter, should we ever find us in an incapacitated state, I would like my skilled nursing to happen here or here, if possible. Thank you very much. Hope I don't need it. Otherwise, again, they're going to get thrown into crisis and try and figure this out on their own. If you go please when you're healthy. So if you're going to move into a community, make the choice sooner. Make it as if you're a couple so that you can do it together. The toughest thing I ever had to witness is when a spouse passed away and the kids convinced mom, you should move into a community. If she'd have done that a year prior, she'd have had a buddy. It's not easy to make that transition at this age to a brand new place. It's like going to high school again, right? You got to fit in new patterns of living, make new friends. Having your spouse is really helpful. We moved my in-laws into the home, independent, wasn't really wanting to go, but when you got a son-in-law who's been in this business, I guess I wore him down. But they went together. And a year later, he got diagnosed with cancer. She's still living 4 years later in a community that she has support. But that 1 year transition together was really helpful that they did it as a couple. So if you're gonna do it, and then the other thing is, right, you're buying a lifestyle, do you wait till you're all worn out and unable to take advantage of it? No, go sooner, take advantage of the wonderful lifestyle and amenities that have been built around you. Involve your children. This is another one where you kind of get to that age where you don't want them in your business, right? It's a sign of independence. I'm still independent. I don't need my 56-year-old son in my business, right? But you do want your kids in your business. Now, everybody's got different situations and different relationships. I get that. But then if your children are not candidates to be part of this, find some trusted individual that you can have some level of conversation about this. It's a third party who's able to say, hey, what about this, what about that? When you go to a doctor's appointment, you often bring a second person with you. And why do you do that? They hear things you didn't hear. They record things you didn't record. So again, having somebody else in the conversation is helpful. Do your homework, as I mentioned, get out and visit places, especially if you're going to move to a community, get out and see them, test drive them. We would actually have people stay a weekend in the community. Sometimes that was really helpful for them to experience before they did anything. Again, if you're going to stay in your home, visit some skilled nursing, visit some assisted living, see it, feel it, taste it, whatever you need to do to get a sense for what it's going to be like. And that's the biggest one. When you're in a retirement community, independent living is always very shiny, it's very attractive. And people never see themselves as in the 70% group, so they never check the assisted living or the skilled nursing. So if you're buying this pathway of care, you kick the tires at every facet of it. That's what you're buying. Make sure you go to the assisted living. Make sure you go to the skilled nursing before you sign the agreement that says I'm moving into independent living. So we talked a little bit about some things you want to do to your home, right? So home improvement fraud is one of the top 10 scams that happens to seniors. So you might hire a contractor to make some improvements to your home. The last thing we want to do is say, gosh, Joel Ryder came, he said I should do this, and then I got ripped off. So I'm going to give you just a few precautions there too when it comes to picking contractors. Scammers are out there all over the place. You can Google scams West Michigan right now, and you'll probably get a whole new set of pictures. And they are so crafty and creative in what they do. Has anybody got the call with the grandkid that's not your grandkid?
Yeah.
That is so scary. My dad's gotten that call twice. It sounds so believable, right? So they're very sneaky people. One of the reasons they prey on seniors is a compliment I can give you. You guys are good people. When you were raised with great manners, somebody comes to your door and knocks on it, what do you typically do? You say, who's here? Somebody needs to talk to me. In the old days of landlines, before caller ID, you were trained to, I answer the phone. You've got great manners. And it's sad when we have to have talks about scams because I feel like we're talking you out of being great people. You just need to be cautious, highly cautious people. So one of the things I say, and we probably all had this, anybody recently in the last year had somebody knock on your door that's selling you some home improvement. If they are a busy, legitimate company, do you think they probably need to pay somebody to knock door after door after door to reach a client? Typically, the hair on my back of my neck is already suspicious, going, why are you in front of me? Why are you marketing in this very ineffective, inefficient way? If they ever say to you, we only work with cash, okay, that means they're working off the books, right? Sorry, I'm not interested. Is hesitant or unwilling to provide references. And they're usually really slick about this. They're going to say things like, I will get those to you. And then they'll turn the subject to something else that they noticed that you were very excited about their project and what you were going to do for them. And then they just never seem to get around to providing that list of references. And at some point you're like, well, we're really anxious to get going on this. And in this market, it's really hard to find people who can do a job. Far more jobs than people doing them. So your inclination is going to be, well, let's just go with it. But they consciously didn't provide a list of references. Why would they give you references? I mean, they're hand selecting who you're going to talk to. You think they're going to give you bad references? That's a red flag. Just happens to have materials from a job they just finished that are extra, which is going to save you a lot of money. Okay, typically when somebody's giving you this, you have won the lottery spit pitch, it's not true. And there's usually a lot of pressure for you to make a decision right now. And what they're preying on is fear and greed. Those are the two things that scams work on. So your fear is, I'm going to lose out on the lottery. Unbelievably, I answered the door, and this guy's got extra material from a previous job. I'm the winner. You don't want to fall into that trap. Unbeknownst to you, they've already assessed your home without your knowledge and have found a few things that you probably didn't know about. I was doing a presentation like this 2 years ago, and one of the persons raised their hand and said, yeah, my mother had somebody into their home, and the gentleman had been on her roof without her knowledge. And guess what? He did find a hole, and he could get there the next day to patch it if she made a decision that day. Fortunately, she had somebody in her life that she trusted. She called and said, just had this guy here, what do you think? And she said, why don't you call so-and-so, somebody I know and trust. And he went up there, and he did find a hole in the perfect shape of a boot. Anybody who's been on my roof, first of all, I own the liability for somebody being on my roof. If he was fall off, my issue, my insurance company has to pay. Never. And I get these guys that walk around and say, yeah, I've assessed how many windows you had and what we could do for you. It's like, I didn't ask you to do that. I'm already at odds with you. No thank you. Uses high pressure sales techniques. Again, you gotta make a decision right now, today. If you can't have some time to, again, assess it, do your due diligence, talk to some people about it, that there's that much pressure, it's probably not a good relationship. Offers exceptionally long guarantees or makes promises you know that are just too good to be true. If it feels that way, it probably is too good to be true. Is working close by and can save you thousands of dollars because we're close by. That makes no sense. They come out of a home business. They don't sleep at the previous job. They're always going back and forth. There's no truth in that statement. Ask you to pull a homeowner permit. So if you invite somebody in your home that's an electrician and it requires, the project level requires the use of a permit, and they say, you know, you could probably go down to City Hall and pull a homeowner permit, and then I'll just do the job. No, you don't want to operate in that kind of environment at all. So what can you do? Obtain more than one bid. Again, it's trickier to do right now because there's way more jobs than there are people doing them, but at least get a couple of bids, ideally 3 bids. Depends on the level of the project. You know, if it's a couple $100 and less, no need to get multiple bids. You're talking about a $5,000 project, you should get 3 bids. They tell you a lot. Insist on a written bid, okay? Guys can tell you, I'm so busy. We just talked about it, we're good, right? When you go to court, should you ever need to, what is the judge going to look at? Paper. What do you have in writing? And if it becomes, well, he said he was going to do this, and then he says, I didn't say that. You know what works really well when it's been put in writing? It's iron tight. Ask for it in writing, and make sure it's got the details that you feel comfortable with, not just a bunch of abbreviations. Make them spell it out. Don't sign anything before you've read it. Sometimes you get excited, this is a good bid, I trust this person, everything's checking out. Just make sure you read through it carefully. Contract should be itemized, and it should also talk about when the work will be completed. Okay? I'm going to do this, and these are the things I'm going to do, and this is what each of these items is going to cost, because if they give you an allowance for something, and it comes in way less, on an allowance basis, that money should come back to you. You should not be charged in the end. But if it's written in a way that just says, we're going to provide these services, and they and they planned for the worst and they got the best, you should be getting some money back on that. Contract should include start dates and completion dates. As I said, this is a tricky one because you just don't want to be that person who said it's taken 9 months to do a 3-month project. They just couldn't get back. Make sure that there's some completion dates that have teeth to it. Contract should include the total cost of the project, so make sure that there's an upper end, right? Contract should have payment schedule. So sometimes they'll say, well, I need some money to get started or to cement our deal. Would not do more than a third, and certainly don't pay it up front. They can come to you at different points and say, I've done some more work, I'm out some money and materials and a lot of time and labor. Can we have a schedule that agrees you're gonna cover some of these costs in the interim? And then maybe you get to the end and there's 10% left. And then you're going, I'm completely satisfied with the project, here's the remaining payment. Okay? Never make a final payment until you're fully satisfied with the work. That's the one leverage you have left. If you get to that stage where they just didn't deliver on what they promised, right? So that's what I have. Questions?
Questions?
I'll tell you, my niece got stuck with that. The man was gonna, she didn't know this repairman. He was going to do repairs and he needed $600 to go buy material. See ya.
Yeah, it's a famous one. So, hey, I'm going to do this job. If you give me the material money, I'll be right back.
That's what he told me.
Yeah, and if you think about it, you're not enough of a business person. You're not established enough to front $600.
Right.
That's what they're saying. And then sometimes you have to frame it that way, right? Say, why? It doesn't make sense to me that you're an established, reputable contractor. You've been in business how long? 4 or 5 years? Oh, you don't have $600 worth of commercial credit to your name? Right?
I told her, I said I would have went and got his license before I gave him $1 on his car, on his truck.
Yep. Driver's license plate on the car. The internet is a beautiful thing. Just make sure, you type in somebody's name, you will stumble on things that are very helpful in your research, right? Sometimes you end up in places that are like chat rooms, contractor chat rooms. And they're not contractors, they're dissatisfied clients. And then you start reading these threads of horror stories. And back in the day, pre-internet, you didn't have that advantage. The internet is quite a tool in terms of finding out about someone you have no knowledge of. Always ask your friends. Hey, in a group like this, hey, I need to have a new fence put in. Has anybody had a fence put in the last 4 or 5 years? And you can probably get somebody in the room and say, yeah, I use so-and-so really well. That's a place to start. You've got somebody you trust who just had an experience that went well, right? So you take advantage of those two. There's a question back here? Yeah.
Is the Better Business Bureau a resource to contact to find the legitimacy of the contractor?
It used to be the gold standard, right? When I was in business for 22 years, we would say we're members of the Better Business Bureau. When we told somebody that, we expected that they would go, oh, that's an endorsing factor. Of course, it's a membership-driven thing. I had to be a member as a business owner. Many of my competitors chose not to be members. So they were under a different category than I as a member. If they acted poorly, they that poor behavior might be reflected, but they would not have to live into what it meant to be a member of the Better Business Bureau. It's not what it once was, but it is a factor I would always check. Because at least somebody who is a member is saying, my reputation matters. I would like a third party to be an arbiter of my reputation. What you're going to get there typically is horror stories. You're not going to get things like, I think they track inquiries. They might say, hey, 40 people checked into Joel's snow service, but no complaints. And you'd go, well, that's good. But if Joel Snow Service acted poorly and so poorly that people make complaints, that's typically where you're going to spot those. Again, the internet often has many other places where Joel Snow Service gets, reflected as well. So yes, I would say check the BBB, but also just do Google searches in any business you're deal with. If they are a licensed contractor, the state of Michigan holds licenses, and that's also another place that you can contact or just type in and find out if their license is in good standing. One thing I forgot to put on there, I should have had on there, insurance. When you have somebody working at your house, it is very fair, very important that you ask, are you insured? And can I verify that in some way? With either a policy declarations page or the name of the agent, I'll give them a call. Especially if they have people working for them. So if somebody gets injured on your property that's working for a contractor doing the work that you contracted them to do, and that contractor does not have workers' comp, that injury is going to go onto your homeowner's policy. So you want to make sure when you're saying, hey, you have people that work for you? Yep, you have workers' compensation. Sometimes they try to do little tricks to get away from that, and they treat everybody as an independent contractor that works for them. Okay, that's really not legitimate, and that's a way they can not have workers' comp. But again, you want to make sure you can verify that, just to protect yourself. Question?
Now, we have a waiver statement that we asked when they fixed our garage door opener. He got up on a ladder. Does that hold up in court? Is that good to have? I mean, I can't be thinking about the embarrassment on the part of the
Yes.
worker.
Yes. Anytime you have something in writing that the other party has signed, I think it's helpful.
Okay.
Lawsuits can be filed no matter what, for any reason, and the court sorts that out. But the more you have in writing, the better prepared you are to defend your position. And having said, this waiver, maybe the waiver can even be written to say, by signing this waiver, you waive any complications from a fall, and or you're acknowledging you have workers' compensation. So you're covering that eventuality, and again, somebody's going to look at it and say, hey, they did their due diligence. You're the one who didn't put the properly prepared. So it never hurts to have things like that in writing. And it feels weird, I bet, at times, to say,
Yes.
I need you to sign this waiver, and they're looking at you like, oh, come on, don't you trust me? Yes, I do. Please sign the waiver. You just have to sometimes. Any other questions?
Are there any limitations to what a homeowner can do through his own property in terms of improving it?
The question is, can a homeowner make any repair they want to their property? There are very few limitations. When you go down to the building officials, you talk to them, you can pull a homeowner permit. It will have to be inspected, just like you're a licensed individual, because the permit is stating we're putting out alert to the building department. You're doing a project that requires a permit, and whether it's you or the professional you hire, somebody's going to come back through and inspect that work. And that's the protection the community at large has to ensure that people aren't making poor decisions, getting out ahead of their skis, ahead of their skill level. But yes, you, as a homeowner, if I want to change my electrical panel, I can do that, but it should be inspected. Good question. Well, thank you very much. You're an awesome audience, and hopefully some of this helped. I know it's a tough thing to consider. I'm guessing I got a lot of 97%ers in here, and that's fine. That is fine. Just be smart and know that that doesn't mean you don't make some improvements to your home to keep yourself safe. And that's the name of the game. Be safe so you can flourish and enjoy these years. They're great years. What we don't want to have you do is fall, and then that spiral of health effects that comes with that. So let's keep you on your feet and enjoying where you're living, and keep coming to this. Very, very good, very, very healthy for you. All right? Thank you.